We found a report that predicts that Central Valley metros, and in particular Sacramento, stands to lose as much as 30% of its population in the next 30 years as a result of climate risk and the resulting loss of population and rise in insurance prices. We were pretty surprised by this finding because we know that Sacramento does not have a lot of fire risk. But one thing that we sort of knew at the back of our minds was true is that Sacramento has extremely dire flood risk.
The Central Valley in California, both the San Joaquin Valley in the south and the Sacramento Valley to the north, are actually very flood vulnerable places. In some ways, they're among the most flood vulnerable places in all of the United States, all the way from up by Mount Shasta to south by Sequoia National Park in the southern Sierra, and then also the coastal mountains to the west, all drain into the Central Valley.
There's only one outlet for the entire Central Valley, which is the Delta. And as the climate warms and precipitation events get more intense, the risk for that kind of flooding is going up. It's not the kind of thing that will happen every 5 or 10 or even 20 years, but when it does happen, it could be really bad.
California has a very extensive network of flood protection infrastructure in place. The challenge is the climate changing in a way that is potentially outpacing some of those flood protection adaptations that we've seen?
But what is much less certain is what this implies from a migration perspective. Are people really going to leave the metro in droves? When First Street predicts a number like 30% population decline, what they're saying is that, if you average out the large number of scenarios where nothing major happens, flood rise, and the small number of really major scenarios where the whole valley is devastated, that averages out to something like 28%, which is the number that they're getting to. It's hard to know if there's anything really actionable for the average homeowner. For example, when we talk to a real estate agent who works in Sacramento, she says that most people looking to buy homes are not asking about flood risk or really about climate risk at all. So one thing I would say is think about how low-lying is the land that you live on. Look at some of these FEMA flood maps. Imagine the situation and think about what you would do. I think that, making sure that you're investing in insurance and doing the best that you can along those lines is probably the best you could do right now.
If we adapt, if we increase our defenses, if we sort of take that voluntary action now to get ahead of these risks, we could actually see a future where fewer people are harmed in these events than we saw historically, even as the number of them or the intensity of these events themselves increases.